Okay, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Zoning Board of Appeals January 27, 2025 public hearing night. In light of the inclement weather we're having, we're going to try to get this done as quickly as we can. The first public hearing tonight is for Dennis and Deborah Gates. The relief sought is variances from 255-1110 dimensional table, 255-1172D, pyramid law, and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. A variance of 14.2 feet for the shed to remain 0.8 feet from the rear yard line where 15 feet is required. A variance of 13.6 feet for the shed to remain 1.4 feet from a side yard lot line where 15 is required. Variances of 5 feet 4 inches and 9 feet 0 inches to allow the shed to remain 5 feet 4 inches and 9 feet 0 inches outside of the town's pyramid regulations from the western and northern property lines respectively. Zoning district is an A2 residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And this is my area, so I did the field inspection. And the first, I'm sorry, I'm way out of it here. 1 second. So the affidavits of service and posting in order.
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavits of notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you, Charlie. Okay, this is my area, so I did the field inspection, and the first photo, as you can see, shows that the property was properly posted. Next, please. This is the house that is existing on the property. I think it's a 2-story. Next one, please. This is another angle of the same house that exists on the residence. Next, please. This is the shed in question. The property behind it is designated as protected agricultural land. Next, please. I just had to do this. This is the nicest, one of the nicest field inspections I've ever done. I had little creatures following me all over the place. This is where the sheep are. There's a bird sanctuary I was sorry not to see with the cold weather. Next, please. He followed me throughout my entire field inspection. Next, please. This is the property that exists behind the shed that's in question. Next, please. This is a copy of the barn. It's not related to this application. I just took the photo to get a sense of what exists on the property. Next, please. This is the existing garage, which is right next to the house that you saw earlier. Next, please.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you, Jake. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this application? Hi, Rick.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Richard Whalen from Whalen Filer on behalf of the applicants, Dennis and Debbie Gates. Debbie, sometimes Debbie Miller Gates. Dennis Gates is with me tonight. I did submit the uploading to the portal photo sheet with 4 photos. Didn't show too much different from what the chairwoman indicated there, but I don't know if you got that. I did usually hand things out, but I just uploaded this time, so I don't know if we have those. But anyway, I guess the important thing is the shed is kind of pinned into its location by vegetation. There's a nice sized white pine in front of it, and then there's a, I don't know what the shrub is to the east, but somewhat impedes if you were to try to remove the shed.
White oak in front.
Yes.
You said white pine. White oak.
Yeah, the shrub over here I'm talking about. I don't know what that is. It was white pine, though.
It's a good tree.
Big tree. Anyway, the location is the site of the historic Miller Farm. The Millers in the mid-1800s owned about 350 acres in the Springs. Obviously, they're one of the early families in the Springs, going back at least to the mid-1700s. Springs was settled around 1730. We know where the Millers there by the 1750s. Dennis's wife is a Miller. That's Debbie Miller Gates. By 1916, the Millers still owned about 180 acres in the Springs. By 1972, though, they were down to about 50 or so acres. And in 1972, the family sold off the land just to the northwest of the field, not including the field that adjoined this property. And that was subdivided in 1973 as the Miller Farm subdivision. It was kind of groundbreaking for the time. It was very low density. It was only 6 lots and 25.5 acres, and they preserved about 16 acres of pasture through the use of scenic easements, which kind of an historical anomaly. I believe was the first time that scenic and conservation easements were ever employed in the town on the Miller Farm in 1973. So the location of this shed is an historic rural bucolic area. And, part of the object of my photographs was to kind of show you the shed looks like it belongs there. There are no obvious property lines. There is a fence just behind the shed on the right-hand side, which would be the northeast side. The property line runs just northeast of the shed, but there's no fence there. So you really can't tell that you're at a property line, and it doesn't matter very much because Debbie Miller Gates owns the preserved farmland. Mm-hmm. So first of all, the shed is 144 square feet in size. It's 12 by 12. It's only 9 feet tall to the roof ridge. It was on the adjoining property to the northeast. Kind of property wraps around. It's a northeast and northwest. It's a 4.56 acre adjoining parcel that's owned by Debbie Miller Gates. And in 2013, the Millers sold the development rights, or I guess Debbie did, sold the development rights to that property to the town. At that time, Debbie Gates' mother's house was on that adjoining property. So that house was removed as part of the sale to the town for the development rights, and the shed was on the property, was really associated with the house, and that's this shed. You might be able to classify it today as an agricultural shed, but it's really used for household tools and equipment and so forth in connection with the Gates residential property. So for that reason, when the town bought the development rights, they wanted the Millers to remove the shed or move it off the development rights parcel. And Dennis did that by using rollers and a tractor, and he moved it about 50 to 60 feet from its original location, not very far. You can see in aerial photographs where the shed used to be. So it got to where it is right now. They weren't thinking about property lines because they own the adjoining property. But technically, there's a boundary property line there. The adjoining property is owned by the Gates, but is now preserved land. And so we have, if they want to get an updated C of O, they have this issue with the setbacks. So that's the backstory to it. That's how the shed got to be where it is. It is used for household equipment and tools and so forth. In my opinion, very attractive shed. You can see that from the aerials. From the photographs that I submitted and that Chairwoman Savory submitted. So there are 5 standards for the grant of an area variance. Number 1, would the grant of the variances be harmful to the character of the community, affect the ambience of the community and so forth? And the answer to that is absolutely not. In fact, as I said, the shed looks like it belongs there. And if you were to move it, and I'll deal with that later, it would probably have a greater impact on the character of the community. Are there physical or environmental conditions that would be impacted by the grant of the variance? No, there are no sensitive areas here. The shed does not impact on anything that is environmentally sensitive. The land is flat, and it's basically a utilitarian use that really kind of, in historic terms, in Old East Hampton, would have been situated at the back corner of your property. Are the variants substantial? I contend they're not substantial at all. Nominally, they seem to be relatively large variances, but you have to look at the context. The shed is a very small structure, 144 square feet, 9 foot tall to the roof ridge. Measuring terminal variances from adjoining property, which again is really owned by the same people that own the shed, is kind of silly. So I would say that these are not, in light of the minor nature of the structure, these are not large variances. And finally, the last 2 questions, the last 2 standards for an area variance are kind of the same thing, and that is, could you avoid the need for a variance by some other method? So Dennis and I, when I went to visit the property, Dennis showed me around. The only place he contends that you could even consider moving the shed to would be down the driveway and off to the west side of the driveway, southwest side of the driveway. That would be inconvenient for its use because as the chairwoman saw when she was out there, the locus of activity on the property is kind of north of the house. The house has its door, its entrance on the north side. There's a porch there. The shed is just northeast of the house. The garage is just to the west. The sheep paddock is right nearby. And of course, the gates that go into the adjoining property where there are barns on the agricultural land, they're all there. So to move the shed down the driveway would be inconvenient, in addition to which you couldn't do that just putting it on rollers and doing it the cheap way by just using the tractor. You would have to get a house mover to move this thing, to extract it from its current location and move it down the driveway and to a place that would meet the setbacks. And I think also, you should have, I believe you received a letter of support from the neighbor, the Bakers. Their only view, as far as I can tell, through to the Gates pasture land, the preserved farmland, is in the location to which the shed would be moved. So they're in favor of the grant of the variances because, when they wouldn't want to see the shed moved to block their view. So all those things said, I think that the benefit to the applicant outweighs any potential harm to the neighbors or the community. There are only 2 residential neighbors that adjoin, not counting the Gates, the Millers own preserved agricultural land. One of those people has submitted a letter of support. So I would ask that you grant the requested variances.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Only that the property in both directions, you're looking for variances on 2 property lines. The property adjoining that is in both directions is owned by the Millers.
That's
There
kind
and
of
both sides. So it's one parcel that wraps around. That's my only question.
Okay,
One
thank
quick
you.
one. Aside from the issues that you said about the concept of moving it down the driveway, it would be inconvenient for use, but isn't there a scenic easement over the whole driveway? So would they even be allowed to move it into the scenic easement?
I think there's a scenic easement, well, actually, show here.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
Here. So the prospective location, again, there are trees
Yeah.
throughout the property.
Yes.
The location that Dennis was talking about was around here.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
It's a good point, actually, but outside the scene.
Thank you.
And that is, I measured, that's about 150 feet down the driveway, and then you got to move it in off the driveway. So again, that's not something Dennis could do. You'd have to hire a house mover to do that.
Is it
Thank you.
possible that one of those other properties could change hands in the future?
So there's a house here, and then this is the neighbor who submitted the letter of support. They have a view through this area, so if you move the shed, not that the shed is unattractive, it's not, but it would potentially obstruct their view to the fields.
Are we ready to hear from the planning department?
I'm good with it. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Good evening, board.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Just introduce yourself.
Jay Kushner with the planning department. So we don't have too much to add here. I think we got a pretty good background of the parcel history. Again, the property that's most impacted by the requested relief is owned by the applicants, the Gates. It's used for agricultural purposes. There's horses and goats and things like that. As part of that agreement, future residential, commercial, industrial uses are prohibited on that parcel. It's strictly for agricultural purposes. So I think there's just that's a consideration. As well, the board should also consider the size of the shed versus the magnitude of the requested variances. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
Do we have any questions?
You don't anticipate any environmental impact of this?
No,
Negative environmental impact, okay.
Thank you, Jake.
thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Matt, do we have any callers?
Let's do a double check. Hang on 1 second. And this is Matt Chapman calling in from LTV. All lines appear to be open and clear, and you have 0 additional callers. Thank you.
Rick, do you have any closing comments? Okay, so in the matter of Dennis and Deborah Gates, 887 Springs Fireplace Road, Springs 300-63-2-9-9.2. I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Rick. Okay. Now. The next public hearing is that of Nanette Johns, 74 Surfside Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-51-4-12. Description is to restore approximately 7 linear feet of eroded bluff by placing approximately 1,500 cubic yards of clean bluff compatible fill and construct a 4-foot wide bluff stair. The restored bluff is to be planted with beach grass, a sand fence to be installed at the toe of the bluff. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code. Zoning district is a B resident zone, X flood zone. Secret class is type 2. Council, is the affidavit of service and posting in order?
Yes, I reviewed the affidavits and notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order for this hearing, and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Good mind.
Vice Chair Johan.
Took this photo today, obviously, after the snowstorm, and you can see that it's properly posted, and I'm very happy to say it survived the wind and the storm of the weekend. Next. So these photos, this was before us as a potential hearing a while back, and these photos I took many months ago, but nonetheless, that was, we'll walk through these quickly because this is just coming into the house. This is, as you're standing in the road, the driveway. I'm looking up the driveway. There's just a growth there. It doesn't enter into the decision. Next, please. I come up to the house. This is approaching the house from the north side. Next. Going up some staircase to go around towards the ocean. Next. This is the back of the house. I'm just turn my way when I get up there, look back at the house. Next. Now you can get an idea from the house, same spot. I looked at the house, now I'm looking out at the ocean. We're gonna go to the far corner and look where the staircase had existed. Next. Now I'm down here again, they've got a fence there running along the edge. Beyond that was where the staircase went down. Obviously it's a beautiful portion of the town, a beautiful sweep of the beach, but this is the location where the staircase had existed. Next, is that all I have? Okay, thank
It's a
you.
beautiful photo. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the application? Hi, Alice.
Good evening, board members. I'm Alice Cooley of Matthews, Curse, Cooley, and Churon here on behalf of the applicant, Nanette Johns. This property has quite a bit of history with NRSPs, mostly to restore and protect the bluff as much as possible. In 2019, my client received an expedited administrative NRSP to restore 70 linear feet of eroded bluff and to repair the then existing beach stairs in place and kind. First Coastal was hired to repair the stairs. They were unable to because the area on the property where the stairs were meant to be repaired was too severely eroded to support the stairs. And a new set of stairs were constructed, not consistent with that approval. In the spring of 2024, ordinance enforcement notified my client that because the stairs had been severely damaged by the winter storms that year, they posed a safety concern and my client promptly had the stairs removed. The applicant then reapplied to construct the beach stairs, and that brings us to tonight. As a littoral property owner with ownership to the mean high water line, my client is entitled to have reasonable access to the ocean. Beach stairs have already been deemed a reasonable improvement for this property since they have been approved for this property in the past, and similar stairs have been approved on nearby properties. I think the primary consideration here tonight is whether these stairs, this construction in this location on the property meets the standards. And we submit that this project is consistent with 255-551D, preservation of natural resources. First, the stairs are proposed in the safest location on the property with the most stability. The prior location of the stairs was very close to the neighboring property line to the west. And the top was in a location that was so severely eroded that constructing them exactly as they were would not be feasible. Second, they were designed in such a way that they will protrude minimally onto the beach. I met Tyler Borsak on the site in 2023, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler. And it seemed that the biggest objection to the stairs at that time as they were constructed was how far they did protrude onto the beach, the public right-of-way, which is certainly understandable. With that concern in mind, the current configuration was designed. They're quite high at 38 feet and were designed in a sort of serpentine pattern with a series of landings so that they don't protrude onto the beach and end at the edge of beach grass. This is a much smaller footprint than the prior stairs. The bluff restoration is designed to slow erosion as much as possible and is expected to provide some protection to the property. As stated in the TAM, the currently proposed stairs more closely align with past ZBA approvals, and there is no evidence in the record that the proposed stairs would have any negative impact on the bluff. All the conditions mentioned in the TAM are acceptable, and I thank you for your time. I'm available if you have any questions.
Does the board have any questions?
Well, I do. We're talking about 1,500 yards of sand coming in there to do the restoration. How is that going to be delivered? How will that be? How will that arrive at the site?
That is a good question, and I don't have the answer to it.
Okay, because the access is maybe from a road that's to the west of there, which means you're going to have to cross in front of other properties. It's going to require some DEC approval for driving on the beach. It's going to require possible approvals by the other landowners along the way. These are all considerations, maybe not in front of us right now, but that's something we have to ask. What's going to happen here for you to bring in 1,500 yards of sand? It's not a small amount. That's a significant amount of material.
I can ask First Coastal to put together a construction protocol
think
to
a
submit to your
construction
record, because
protocol-
they've done this on this property a number of times in the
Yeah.
past.
I think the conversation about replenishing the bluff is one consideration, and we can take that at its face value, that it's a net positive possibly, depending on how we all decide to look at it. But the idea that it has to come in down the beach is a problem First Coastal is going to have to address. That's something that you have to ask yourself. It's not going to come over the bluff. It's not going to come through the property of Ms. Jones, right? It's not James. It's not going to come that way. So coming down the beach is something that is going to require some other approvals.
Yeah, I'm just not certain. I don't have that answer, but I know when they had to remove the stairs, that was obviously from the beach, but as a health and safety concern.
I don't know if that one came in front of the removal, may not have come in front of us, but
No, it was an emergency.
yeah, emergency. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was actually, I'm in the same court as that. That was how will beach access occur? But also, is 1,500 cubic yards going to be the minimum necessary? Do you anticipate any additional?
No.
Okay. So that was calculated by an
First
engineer?
Coastal. Yeah.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Tyler, for,
Sure. Tyler Borsak for the planning department.
do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I don't have much else to add. There were 3 prior expedited and administrative permits on this property for similar work, repair the existing stairs and do a bluff restoration. I believe they all took access from the road and just down in downtown Montauk as well in those cases, from what I remember. And then again, improper stairs were reconstructed, extended well onto the beach, and became a hazard to the public, and so they were removed. And that leads us back to where we are now. The stairs that are currently proposed are much more in line with what had been on the property in the past. So we don't have any concerns about that. It seems like a fairly straightforward application, but I can make myself available for questions.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions for Tyler?
Has a planting plan been approved by you?
It's just beach grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm good with it.
I'm good with it, too.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to participate in this public hearing? Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Yeah, would you like to leave the record open for protocol in terms of beach access and?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to ask counsel, are we in a position to question that, or is that to question what their need to get a DEC permit in order to come down the beach? That's really not within the jurisdiction of what we're deciding right now, is it?
I have a suggestion, if you don't mind, Charlie. I was going to suggest that we submit a construction protocol with regard to access as a condition of approval that's acceptable to the planning department, and Tyler can review it, or?
I think to expedite this, keep it moving forward. I'd be happy that it's a condition of approval.
I agree.
Thank you.
For the DEC though?
Well, the DC is a different problem,
I don't
but
think
they have to
so.
know how
Okay.
they're getting access
Thanks.
to it.
Is everyone in agreement? I agree
agree.
with that as a condition of approval.
Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like, Matt, I did do the callers, there aren't any. Okay, so I believe we can close this public hearing. and we're- Should I?
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I already
Okay,
asked.
thank you.
Member Parker?
Okay, then in the application of Nanette,
Not member Parker.
okay, then in the application of Nanette John, 74 Surfside Drive, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-51-4-12, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record at this time.
Second.
Second, concur.
I concur.
Okay. Next. Okay, the next public hearing is 186 OMH LLC. 186 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-87-3-19. Description is to demolish an existing residence and construct a 3,137 square foot, two-story residence with basement, 348 square feet of decking, 743 square foot stone terraces, a 583 square foot detached garage with basement, sanitary system, and a new driveway on a parcel of land within the town's jurisdiction of Coastal Bluffs. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code. The residence has been proposed 78 feet from the crest of the coastal bluff and more than 200 feet from the bluff toe. Zoning district is A residence, Zone X flood zone, secret class, type 2. Council, is the affidavit of service and posting in order?
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavit of notice of posting and everything seems to be in order and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you. Is there someone in the audience to speak on behalf of the
Do you want
application?
to field report first?
Oh, I think we should do a field report first. Thank you, Member Berger.
Okay, this is the official notice and posting, and bear with me, I took a lot of photos. I didn't know how many I'd need, and the storm was coming, so. Next. This is a view from, as you go down, it's a long driveway, it's shared with other properties, and you can see how it goes up, and then it will go down precipitously. There's a lot of topology and grading on this property. Next. Okay, so the first mistake I made was parking in the wrong place. This is not the parking area for the house that's in question. The house is the one that you see there in the photo. Where I'm parked is actually an area where there are two other houses, which you'll see a little bit of, to the south of this, actually toward the ocean. But this is a shared driveway, as you can see, and this is the gravel parking area at the bottom of the survey. Next. So this is one of the houses that are on the southern end in front of the applicant's home. You see some drainage there going on. Next. And I just took a shot back up the driveway again, just to point out that there's a lot of change in grade on this. Next. There, I believe there's something in the documentation for an access to the beach, and these are stairs that appear to be leading down to that. They are across from the parking area where we saw my car. Next. Now this is just a shot from that same parking area. It shows you get a little piece of the house to the right and the left. Both these houses are southerly and toward the ocean from the applicant's house, and that's their staircases and things that lead down to the house. Next. This was just a shot because it was beautiful. Next.
It's pretty.
Okay, now I'm walking up, since I parked where I parked, there's on the there's a proposed removal of steps that go from that parking area up to the house. These are the steps, and that's how I went up to it. And this is leading up to the first floor of the house, in an area somewhat where I believe the sanitary system is going to be proposed. Next. So this is another shot as I get to, this is the way the house looks today, as it exists today, 2 stories. Next. Now I'm going toward the driveway side of the house. I'm just going to walk around the house a bit. And so again, a lot of topology and other stuff. Next, retaining walls. Next. So this is a shot from the side of the west side of the applicant's house. Again, you can see how the driveway's down. That's the next neighbor, nearest neighbor to the west of the property. Next. Now I'm walking toward the north. You can see the retaining wall. There's a number of that, and there's a little pond in this area also that is in disrepair, but it exists. And starting to get toward the gravel parking area in the back. Next. This is just an example in that along the driveway area. I don't know if this was always there or if it was created, but again, the differences in grade and that appear on the property. Next. And now I'm standing in the parking area, the gravel parking area that's noted, and this is the actual entrance to the house. This is the where I should have parked. And you can see the retaining wall, some of that retaining wall on the right side is proposed to be removed. Next. Now I just turned and I'm facing toward the east, I think. It's either the north or the east. But again, more retaining wall, more grade, and I believe this is in the area where, if it's the north, where the garage is proposed, 2-story garage. Next. This is another just example of a lot of topology on this property.
Right.
Next.
Yeah.
Where am I facing now? I lost myself here. This is I'm out in the driveway actually here now, I think, and I'm shooting in to show the entire area where you enter and where the parking is proposed. Next. And now this is a shot shooting back up toward Montauk Highway, the north side, and this is the east side of the west side rather of the property. Next, I think there was something else. Okay. And now this is just another shot from the driveway area that just shows a little bit more of the house and the topology that's in that immediate area there with the parking area to the extreme left there. Next. Looks like a duplicate. Next. And some more of that. But I think that's it. The last one.
Thank you, Member Berger. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of the application?
Yes, good evening, board members. Karen Hoag from Timmy Latham. On behalf of the applicant, here with me tonight are also Paul Massey and Aaron Well, the project architects from Bates Massey. This application, we believe, is pretty straightforward, and I actually have an aerial of the area, which I think may be helpful for the board, if I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The house with the circle on it is the existing house. The application seeks an NRSP pursuant to Town Code 255-4-20 of the Town Code as the residence is proposed 78 feet from the crest of the coastal bluff, where NRSP jurisdiction is 100 feet. The proposed house is more landward than the existing house and won't be as high as the existing house. It's more than 200 feet from the toe of the bluff. There's an oceanfront house at 188 Old Montauk Highway between the subject property and the toe of the bluff. 188 Old Montauk Highway received a ZBA determination back in 2021 for the demolition and new construction, and you could see the house in the photo that I distributed. This project is to demolish the existing residence, which was built in the 1970s, and construct a new 3,137 square foot, two-story residence with basement, decking, terraces, a detached garage with a basement, new sanitary, new driveway, and other improvements. The project complies with the town code's requirement for lot coverage, building coverage, gross floor area, and clearing. We submitted a memo of law last week addressing the NRSP standards, so I won't go through them all in detail. And at this time, I'd like to just turn it over to the project architects to discuss the proposed residence in the project.
Thank you.
Aaron Weil, Bates Massey Architects.
Good evening. I need to swear you in. Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Could you say your name again? I missed it.
Aaron Weil.
Aaron Weil. Okay, thank you.
Just as I think the technical analysis memo sums it up well, and Karen provided the broad scope, just a little more specific on it. The retreat of the new house versus the proposed house is 14 feet landward. We're balancing the landward placement of the house with the idea of preserving as much of the natural buffer to the north from Old Montauk Highway. That's the most native woodland there in front of the house. We're trying to preserve as much of that as possible. So rather than retreat any further to the north, we're trying to preserve that and sit as much as possible within the existing footprint of the house. As Karen mentioned, it's lower than the existing house. The roof is 20 foot above natural grade, where 25 foot is allowed. It's going to hug the topography as low as possible. We anticipate using Grimes Landscape of Montauk to revegetate the property when complete. Construction access will be via the existing right-of-way. No other cut to Old Montauk Highway will be necessary, all from that right-of-way. Rayner Group is doing the civil engineering. They've designed a sanitary system and drainage system that will, of course, manage all the stormwater and prevent runoff. And as the technical analysis memo states, the bluff is beyond the property, and the proposed developments shouldn't have an adverse effect upon it. Available for questions.
So you're going to demolish the house from the driveway we saw, which is the proper driveway. You're going to come in from the north. You're not going to disturb the woodland up at the roadside as best you can.
Correct.
You have an area you're going to clear for the garage, which
Correct.
is north of the house. You're going to take the demolished house and pull it out and take it out to the road. Now you're going to start new construction. You're going to have some excavation to do.
Yes.
Full basement. What's that material going? Is that going to be where is that going to go? Back where the parking is now? Is it going to leave the site?
It will
What's
be
happening?
leaving the site. There will be
Leave
some
the site.
fill
Okay.
excavated.
And then we're on the old highway and we know what happens with traffic out there, right? So your plan is that, do you have a contractor already involved?
We do not.
Okay. Well, the contractor will be made aware of the fact that it's important for us not to be parking on the road as best we can. Obviously, that happens occasionally. We've seen it, but it is a concern on the old highway. You know that. We see it all the time. So we gotta have some space in a disturbed area. What will be the order of construction? Will you construct the house, leave the garage area open, and then do the garage? Are they going to be done simultaneously? What are you thinking?
That makes sense in terms of phasing, to use that clearing for construction access
Yeah,
and parking.
so, and parking and delivery of materials.
Work sort of north, out of the site as they go.
We start thinking about impact on neighborhoods and how we protect neighbors. We're always asking ourselves, where are people going to park? Where are they going to deliver? Where are we going to store materials? What happens to fill that you might be reusing later on? You've got quite a bit of work that's going to be done here recontouring this lot. There's some soils on there. It's hard to tell if they were part of a berm in 1973 or whatever they did it. It looks as if it's that way as it works its way up the driveway, but they're going to go anyway. You're going to redo those. I see the series of retaining walls that you have around. They're going to replace everything else. This area, all 6x6 is all that goes, right?
Yeah.
So I think when we look at this, we're going to retreat. You're going to make a house that's about the same size. It's larger.
It's larger.
It's larger, but you're going to use about the same, about the same disturbed area. We'll see. We can have that discussion. And then once we go protocol-wise, you're going to allow an area that can be used for storage of materials, delivery of new materials, storage of soils, and then parking as need be.
We can do that, yes.
That would be what we'd be looking for in terms of a protocol long-term here, because as you know, you're fully aware of the area and what goes on the old highway. And some of the projects we've had have had a lot of feedback over the fact that we haven't done a very good job of keeping people on the lot. So that's something that we're going to be very concerned about in terms of the protocol. Other than that, I looked through the stuff, all the information about the septic. The septic seems to be in the best possible location, given all the other work. And I see the drainage calculations for the area of the parking lot anyway. There is quite a bit of slope here, as was pointed out by Member Berger. There's a lot of topography on this lot, natural, and then you're going to create your own. So this is a project that has got a lot of facets, got a lot of moving parts. You know, we're looking at all of them.
So in terms of Vice Chair's point, there is an extensive amount of regrading going on around the new improvements. So how are you going to manage the runoff during construction to prevent the off-site discharge or erosion?
There'll be a silt fence around any disturbed area. And we can, yeah.
And how many drainage structures are there, and what is the capacity of what they will hold in the event of a storm event? How much of a?
It's been calculated, but I don't know the calculations offhand.
How much would that actually hold in each? What's the capacity of each drainage structure?
Yeah.
I mean, 2-inch rainfall doesn't really tell us a lot.
Appears to have been designed for a 2-inch. Yeah, 2-inch rainfall. 8-foot diameter drywall capacity.
Oh, so that holds, and how many drainage structures are there? There's throughout this, okay.
8 by 5.
That contains a lot of water, but yeah, it's 42.24 cubic, so that holds about 318 gallons of water. All right, thank you. Does,
Okay, well, I'm done with the drainage.
yeah,
Okay, the house today is 2 levels. Now you're going to be cutting out another level underneath where the existing house is.
Yeah, the existing house has a crawl space. The new house will be a full basement.
A full basement. And in that basement, you have an incredible amount of things going on there, a lot of living space.
It's,
The theater,
yes, there's a theater.
rooms for staff and
No, that's the
guests.
floor above it.
That's on the,
Oh, that's on the above, yes.
the basement is within the footprint of the floor above. So it's not projecting beyond in any
But
way.
where
It's
those
just-
stairs are coming up today is basically where you're going to be digging underneath there?
That's the height, but yes, the grade will remain there, but the basement will be behind the existing slope that you're seeing in front of the house, south side of the house.
does the board have any other questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at the survey. We're on the clearing, so the allowable clearing is 11,612, and your proposed clearing is 11,612. That's the final, but is there a temporary clearing that's larger than that, and what is it, if it's a?
Right. The construction clearing is the final clearing. We do not anticipate needing more than that for construction.
Okay, and forgive me if I missed it. We have a re-veg plan, and I'm not even sure I saw the protocol.
We have not developed a re-veg plan yet. We would work with Grimes to do so, but we have not developed
Okay.
one yet.
And do we have a full construction protocol? Forgive me, I feel like we do? How do I'm looking in the file and I never, I guess I must have.
I don't think we have one.
We don't have one.
I don't believe so.
So it feels like that would be important to have.
So what native vegetation or stabilization measures in these regraded areas to prevent erosion are you willing to take?
We have used successfully a product called Slope Grid in the past. I have some cut sheets I can supply. It is basically a slope stabilization system that's, I only have one copy.
Thank you. That's okay.
On other steeply sloping sites, it's been successful for stabilizing the slope temporarily during construction, and then you plant it after, and it basically supports the plants until they can root and hold the soil themselves.
I'd like to have this entered into the record. I'll leave this for Sam.
Sure.
And make sure that other members of the board get copies of this.
Okay.
Submit them digitally.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry, are you saying that would be the construction protocol?
That's what he's saying.
Okay.
The revegetation plan. No, that's
Veg.
We can include that as part of the
as
construction.
part of the re-veg plan.
So when? Are we,
Is the board wanting to see a revegetation plan now? Do you feel that that's necessary?
that would be a condition.
But I do think we have to establish a protocol.
We need
I
a
think
construction
that's what we
protocol.
just mentioned about how you might phase it,
Yeah.
where you'd be depositing soils, where materials might go. I think those are things we ask standard, especially in projects of this sensitivity. So I think that we'll be looking for a protocol, which you can produce fairly
We're
readily.
amenable to that. That makes sense.
So we can leave the record open for
Yeah.
that.
I think we'll need the protocol minimally. Everybody else can decide if you feel you see the
I think it's
landscape
important,
plan
yeah.
ahead of time.
I think it's
the
important
protocol.
because of the terrain and the slopes of the property.
I have one
Thank
more.
you.
We can provide that. So we're going to leave the public hearing open for submission of the construction protocol?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're not done yet.
Are you?
I have one
Go
more
ahead.
question. So I'm looking at, in the Bates Mazzy plan, I'm looking at page A103. And you've given us, this is the floor that has the bedrooms on it, right? And so, well, first of all, the survey says 7-bedroom equivalent house. Your plan shows 6. So I just want to know, is this a 6 or 7, first of all?
I think they're counting this space as the 7th. These are bedrooms. This is a communal space,
Right, it says.
so they're counting
Okay.
it as a.
So my question, and this is a little bit of a code interpretation, so I don't want to overstep here, but on page A103, you mark things, staff bedroom 1, staff bedroom 2, the lounge, then it's guest bed 1, 2, 3, and 4. And obviously, this is being presented as a, quote, single-family residence. This is a residential district that allows, right? But when I look at our code and the definition specifically of single-family residence, you can cite the sections of the code, the definition of family and what's not family. I am just trying to understand how this actually fits our code with respect to the actual definition of single-family residence, and what uses are allowed versus prohibited.
My understanding was cooking facilities largely dictate that, which we only have one of on the.
Yes, I'm definitely aware it's one cooking area only, but the definition, the code gets pretty specific about what is considered a family and what is not. I won't go through it all. Yeah, when I reviewed the code, it just jumped out at me. I understand the cooking part, so maybe you could address that, or I don't know if we need a building inspector.
I honestly don't think that's relevant. I mean, the definition of family as part of this application and the number of bedrooms, the number of bedrooms are also a standard that the health department goes by in terms of approving any sanitary system. But, you can have a small family and have, a large amount of bedrooms. I don't see how
I'm
that's.
not questioning the number of bedrooms. That's a design choice, and it meets GFA, right? So.
Right.
2 staff bedrooms and a.
I'm looking at the code and I'm citing what it describes as what constitutes a single-family residence use and what doesn't. So that's what I was referring to. I won't.
Does the board have any other questions?
I do have one question of the architect again. It just is, we're talking about concrete foundation here because you think that you've done a soil analysis. There's not a lot of fill there from previous construction.
Correct.
You're going down deep enough
Going
anyway.
deep
Is that
enough
it?
to be-
So there'll be no pilings, no helicals, anything like that?
Board.
Okay,
Support foundation.
thank you.
Thank you. Karen, are you done with your presentation?
Yes, I am. And we will put together a construction protocol and address the board's
We're
comments.
going to hear from
in
the
that.
planning department now, so they might. Okay, a few more, so we're not done.
Sure.
Can we hear from the planning department?
Madam Chair, board members, Brian Frank on behalf of the Planning Department.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. So this is a property where the zoning board has seen a fair number of applications in recent years along the lines of some of the issues that Vice Chair Johan brought up are some of the issues that have come up in some of the other applications. You can see from this aerial, this is an oblique aerial photograph. Both the lots to the south were reconstructed or demolished and redeveloped with natural resources special permits. I believe Karen cited one of them as 188. I'm not sure which one is 188, but you could see tax map lot 20 is under construction at the time of this photo. And lot 21 to the west had been completed at this time. This property is north of it, shares a common driveway. This is the Hither Hills section of Old Montauk Highway where the setbacks are measured from the toe of the bluff, but jurisdiction is still taken from the top of the bluff. So it's a 100-foot bluff crest jurisdiction. In addition to these two properties, the zoning board has reviewed applications under the name of Tourmalet, Claudette, and De Niro that all involved constructions along with the two properties to the south of this that were essentially along or seaward of the bluff crest and on the bluff face. And this application in that regard is a little bit more simplistic than those. The bluff crest is south of the property line and bisects about the southern third of the house. It exceeds the bluff toe setbacks. So the planning department has not identified any potential adverse impact to the protected natural features, which are the bluff face, toe, and the beach seaward of it in conjunction with the application. It does involve a redevelopment that is going to increase clearing coverage, gross floor area, and total coverage. And there is obviously extensive grading is evident from the proposed contours on the survey. So the level of detail that the board wants to request to demonstrate compliance with the purposes of zoning, consistent with some of the other construction protocols. There are public safety issues with the number of construction vehicles that are parked on Old Montauk Highway. Much as the property here is not flat, the old highway itself undulates and there are areas of poor visibility. And when you end up with numerous work trucks on both sides of the road, there is a safety concern there. The soils here are relatively well drained. If you take a look at the test hole information that's on the survey, most of the soils are silty sand. Sand is a well drained material. This isn't an area that we have clay lenses or perched wetlands, nor do we have some of the drainage problems that we have. There are a couple of areas of the old highway here that do have some drainage problems, a little bit unique. The drainage, as was referenced, has been designed to accommodate the 2-inch rainfall, which is the standard for, mostly comes up in site plans and subdivisions, but it's relevant in single family construction as well. So it is important to ensure, and I think that the questions that the board members asked along the line is to ensure that the construction can be accomplished as proposed without impacting the adjoining properties. And whether the board chooses to leave the record open and request a construction protocol that can be incorporated into the approval or conditions their approval on a construction protocol that they approve, I think is a matter of choice for the board. Beyond that, if there are any questions that I can answer about the application, I will do my best.
Board members, any questions?
Now, the house is almost maxing out at GFA the time of this application. The houses that are in front of it, how large were they? They look small.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know how small they were. I don't know, is the short answer.
I would say the board should focus on this property and this property only in their deliberations.
Well, we often look at context of
I understand, but I think,
character. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a standard.
yeah, I think just because they're owned by the same people, I think I don't know what they're getting at here, but I think we should focus on this as far as the application goes.
Thank you.
Those two houses suddenly are not owned by the same people.
I don't know. And whether they're, most of the applications we see are in LLCs, whether they're a common principle involved. We base our recommendations on the individual lot and the impacts that may occur from that.
Any other questions for Brian?
None for me, thank you.
No.
Thank you, Brian. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to participate in this hearing? Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Karen, would you like to summarize?
Yes, thank you. I would respectfully request that, that the public hearing be closed and conditioned upon an acceptable construction protocol. I think that, we can put that together and demonstrate to the board that this will be done in a manner with the board would be satisfied with, but, we are happy to come back if the board has questions regarding that protocol.
So why don't we leave the public record open for the submission of a detailed construction protocol? And if we have any questions or additional information that we need, we can deal with it then. How much time do you think you'll need?
I don't know, if 30 days, I think is plenty of time to get that together.
Figure out what the next.
Okay, that works.
We have a meeting on February 24th,
Today's the 27th.
which is about 30 days, or March 3rd. That's a little more than 30 days.
Let's shoot for the 24th, and if we need more time, we will request it, but I'm sure we can get it done within that time frame.
And if we need to continue the hearing, we will advise you then.
Thank you.
Member Berger?
Okay, so in the application for 186 OMH LLC at 186 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map 300-087-03-19, I make a motion to close the public hearing and leave the written record open for receipt of a construction protocol until February 24th.
Second.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, next is the application of Nigel Curtis. 393 Cranberry Hole Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-128-1-28.2. Description is to relocate an existing residence to a more landward location and remove a 185 linear foot geocube sandbag on a parcel of land containing barrier dunes, beaches, dune land, and beach vegetation. I just lost my place. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code and any other relief necessary. The residence and decking are proposed to be moved from 12 feet and 5 feet from the dune crest respectively to 32.1 feet and 27.9 feet, or a 75-foot setback is typically required pursuant to 255-440 coastal setbacks. Zoning district is A residence zoning, A residence AE flood zone elevation 10. Secret class is type 2, but council, we did bring up earlier that we would have a discussion on whether or not
Yes.
it would be unlisted.
Yeah, well, yeah, we had that discussion.
Is the affidavit of purpose and posting in order, council?
Yes, I reviewed the affidavits of notice of posting and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Member Mehring, do you have a field inspection?
Yes, thank you, I do. So I visited the site last week to get ahead of the snowstorm. So I'm standing on Cranberry Hole Road, facing the property. I have another photo, it'll probably come up later, of a little closer of the posting, but it was properly posted along the highway. You can see the house, the existing house in the distance. Now, as of today, we received several documents into the record that show the house actually being moved basically in this area in front of the house. When I took the photos and everything, the house was going to be moved to the sort of other corner of the lot. So the photos I took really focused partly on what the last application was. Okay, so as you go in that driveway in front of that house, as I understand the application, with the new survey and such we got today, that house is really coming forward as opposed to being shifted over. Next slide. My back now is to the house. This is just the north side of Cranberry Hole Road, right across from the property in question, just to get a little sense of the context and the beauty of the natural landscape in this area that we're all familiar with. Next slide. Okay, so I've gone on the I can't even see my own photos. I've gone on the property and I'm basically continuing down the driveway that exists. Next slide. This is the existing front facade of the house. Again, this house is not being rebuilt. It's being moved basically as is. Next slide. Okay, so this is towards the eastern side of the house. There's a garage tucked under there. This is the area on the sort of eastern side of the property that has more sort of undisturbed natural resources on it. Again, now I'm getting into a couple photos of where the house had proposed to be moved. Next slide. Yeah, sort of, I think, yes, I moved further east and you can actually start to see down to the water. Next slide. Now there's I think where I'm standing is still on the property. There's topography and then it slopes down into dune land. It's easier to see from the aerials. Brian could probably actually say exactly where the dune land ends on this property and continues on the property to the east. You can see the eastern neighbor for context as well. Again, this area will still be in play because I think of the new position of the driveway, but it won't be disturbed by the house as it's now proposed. Next slide. Okay, this is sort of more of that area. I'm looking right now at the current house that will be moved forward. That is the eastern facade of the current house. Next slide. This is just a closer, this was meant to be in the beginning, and just so you can see, I didn't get it was properly dated, and the house is also actively for sale. There's a for sale sign hanging out there as well. Next slide. Okay, now I've come around, kind of cut my way through. There was no access to the back of the no easy access to the back of the property. So I skirted down around the western rear of the property. You can start to see the geocubes, the westernmost geocubes coming into play. I dropped down onto the beach and went to the rear of the house. Next slide. I popped up onto the rear deck, and then this is the walkway down to the water. Next slide. I went down those steps and you can see that the base of the steps is basically in the water at this point. Okay, I went down onto the beach. These are the geocubes on more towards the western side, and then you can see the western neighbor directly impacted. And then next slide. These are the geocubes continuing and going east, and then you can see in the distance, we saw that house in another photo, the eastern property owner, which also has geocubes around it. You can sort of see them in the distance there. That might be it. One more? Any more? Oh, I'm sorry, just again, looking back up at this house with the geocubes, the 3 levels there. Next slide. And that, I meant to get this is the house across the street on Cranberry Hole that's, I guess, direct neighbor. I just took that as well for context. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there someone here to speak on behalf of this application?
Good evening, Ms. Chairman.
Thank you.
First time, congratulations. Richard A. Hammer from Biano and Hammer. I'm here representing Nigel and Monica, who are actually here with me tonight, and they're in the audience for this project on 393 Cranberry Hole Road. I'm going to try to be brief, but I'm also going to try and be a little bit thorough because there's a lot going on here. I don't know how many board members will recall this, but there's a long history surrounding this property. It's kind of in limited value for the consideration of our current application, but to the extent that the prior application history is relevant, I would ask that this record be made available to the new board members just so you can review and understand how we got here tonight. Quick summation, at least for purposes of tonight. Previously, this board had denied the application to allow the geocube structures that you see along Gardner's Bay to remain. That was a resolution dated November 2021, November 16th. The owners challenged this decision in Supreme Court. I really haven't been a participant in the litigation, but I have been aware of some of the pleadings. This application was submitted as part of a stipulation that will either result in a discontinuance, basically the litigation will go away, or a continuance if this application were to be denied by the board. My office was contacted at that point, hey, can you submit this application? I wasn't really involved in the discussion of what was proposed or hashing out how this was going to be done. My office received the TAM for this project just after Christmas, and we've been working diligently to provide as much of the requested information to accommodate the concerns raised by the TIM or the suggestions, and I think we made major changes to the project, one of which member Meering noticed tonight. These applications for erosion and structures in areas that are prone to erosion are very difficult applications, and they're probably my least favorite application to deal with. But I think we've really tried to be as accommodating and cooperative with the town as possible. I never predict that Brian and I are going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya to the board. You might not want that anyway, but we're really trying to be here in a cooperative fashion and address whatever concerns we can. As a snapshot, the town's current CHA regulations basically would favor a retreat from an eroding natural feature, which is what we're proposing to do here. A central part of this application involves the removal of the existing geocube structure and to relocate the residents depicted in the plans. These were submitted paper copies today. It was submitted to the portal Saturday. I think the architect sent them to us Friday, and then we had a snow day, so there was a little bit of delay, but basically this was all done and is consistent with the TAM. I was trying to keep Brian in the loop, and I sent him a bunch of this stuff so we can get his comments tonight and see if we have other things we can address. We also, the original plan proposal was to relocate the resident to the east side of the property. We proposed this because at the time it made a lot of sense. We could construct a new foundation, lift the house, move it onto the new foundation in one move, basically. A little bit simpler. The TAM suggested moving this house to the southwest of the property, which our updated drawings now depict. As per the TAM, this is the location that's best protected from coastal erosion, part of which is resulting from the interaction of the geocube structural immediately to the east, which I should point out has no legal entitlements to exist in its current configuration either, but it does provide some form of benefit to this property, particularly while it remains. Putting the house in the southwest corner would make sense. It just requires us to move the structure to the proposed stone driveway you see on the plans while we demolish the old foundation and build a new foundation landward of the existing house and move it onto the foundation. I did submit a letter from Davis House Movers addressing this project. I expected them to be much more elaborate, and they were kind of like, oh, this is a tiny little house. We do this, we do this in our sleep, basically, is kind of my read of it. They said it's a small house. They elevate this on a unified hydraulic jack with dollies that basically they can roll the thing, wheeled cribs, move it and set it on cribbing temporarily before it's moved back onto the foundation of the west. They've moved thousands of these houses, apparently. I spoke to the woman and she was like, "You're asking how we do this? This is what we do for a living." But they didn't think this was going to be a challenging move at all based on the size. They will also continue to use part of the driveway and garage on the structure detailed in the TAM. If we moved it to the west, this space became more inaccessible for its use. Our new drawings show the relocation of the residence to the west, and we lined it up 35 feet from the western property line. The TAM suggested 30 feet. That is our neighbor who also intervened in the litigation and also submitted some letters tonight. We wanted to provide enough clearance from the pyramid line on this property and provide a little bit of a buffer to that property line. The house will be moved back about 34 feet from the existing structure. I just scaled that from the survey. And from the bluff line shown on the survey and realign, basically it's kind of oriented this way. We're going to realign it on a north-south axis as we move it back. The plans also detail the new elevation of the stairs at 17.8 inches above sea level and how we're proposing to realign the walkway to utilize the existing coastal access that apparently is underwater, depending at what type of tide you were there. Based on this new location, we also submitted a revised septic plan prepared by TF engineers that relocates the proposed sanitary in accordance with the Health Department code. It'll be oriented along the front lot line along Cranberry Hole Road and achieve the greatest possible setback to the surface waters of Gardeners Bay. We removed the outdoor shower from the plan. It was a long feature on this property. We couldn't find it on the CO, and we just thought we'd simplify it and remove it. One issue that has arisen is the new FEMA regulations that require 3.5 feet of freeboard. Prior to January 1st, we were only required to provide 2 feet of FEMA freeboard. So our new drawings show compliance with the new FEMA regulations as we understand them, but I really don't have a straight answer on how this applies, when it will apply, how you get grandfathered in. I think we're kind of working through those. You can see the small roof feature. It's actually like a top of a dormer. It's not part of the gross floor area, violates the overall height limitation by 1 foot 3.5 inches, which, you know, FEMA requires 18 additional inches. So we're a couple inches under, you know, we almost fit. Before we fit with this new requirement, we don't fit by 1 foot 3.5 inches. I'm not sure exactly how this impacts our proposal, but, you know, I did speak to the clients and they said, well, we think we could remove that feature, you know, which would significantly drop the roof height. It's a little tiny. If you look at the drawing we submitted, it's like a little triangle of the top. And we think we could remove that and reframe the roof well below it. So it might be an easier fix than I thought it was going to be, depending on what the board's position or what the building inspector's position is on how it's going to affect us. So that is certainly what we're willing to do. The TAM also asked for more information on geocube removal activities. Based on the limited time I had, I did call Billy Mack from First Coastal. He was the one who designed and installed these cubes years ago. The actual plans for those are part of the zoning board application previously, so you can reference them. It's kind of like one row and then 2 rows stacked on top of it. These are the existing cubes. They have not been altered or amended in any way. What he told me is they're filled with beach-compatible sand that was trucked into the site. Removal of them is simpler than I would have thought. They simply cut the bags to release the sand and use an excavator arm, you know, to basically remove the fabric and throw it in a dumpster. It's not a huge project just to remove these things. I don't have time to get a full proposal from him to do this work, but I can submit his email to the board. And this is one of the things that's raised in the letter that was submitted to you today. You know, when we're talking about type 2 versus type unlisted actions, one of the things the neighbor is suggesting, and I don't think it's a bad suggestion, is that this also include a bluff restoration plan. That's unlisted. Removal of geocubes, installing geocubes, that's all type 2 action. So what the neighbor is saying, well, this should be unlisted because we want to expand the scope of what you applied for. And I can't disagree with that at the end of the day, that, having a bluff restoration plan that's going to incorporate the removal of these cubes and basically a recontouring and maybe an addition of some sand to this area to reestablish a natural shoreline that's consistent and will remove the scalloped effect there. Not a bad idea. And I'm happy to do that either as a separate application, a condition of approval. Basically, I'll take the board's lead on how you want that to happen. I just didn't have time to get it in front of them tonight. But it does sound like, reading his letter, what they want is, after these cubes are removed, everything recontoured with the addition of more beach compatible materials so that we create a regular shoreline. The shoreline would have to match up to the existing geocube, the extent of the geocubes, and just be contoured in such a manner that we'd be able to reestablish and plant that area. And I'm happy to do that. Just didn't have time to do that for tonight, and how that affects coordinated review versus non-coordinated review is something we'll have to work out between the attorneys and the board, and what makes the most sense. We don't really have any issue with the proposed conditions and mitigation of the project outlined in the TAM. We are working on our DEC permit that was submitted also by the neighbor. I think we submitted that as well. Basically, my reading of the DEC's letter was, hey, kind of get your East Hampton town permits out of the way first, and then coordinate, and then we'll work with you. So if we're going to coordinate review as an unlisted, that might be the opportunity to do that. But the DEC's procedure and their application is a little different than the town's. However, I do think having both agencies coordinate and being in favor of something would be helpful in terms of moving that project forward. I really don't know how to address the height issue other than removing that feature from the plans, which would seem to be the easiest. We weren't trying to create an issue at all. And FEMA, when we realized the new changes and how it would apply, change the optics of this thing. However, we were fully compliant with all zoning dimensional regulations other than bluff crest and wetland, just because of the nature of the property. But I do think you also have the stated relief of and other relief necessary that we could look at, and if we did cut it off, it would pretty much eliminate it entirely. As I said, we're trying to be accommodating, as cooperative as we can. We hope the board will be involved. We think it will achieve numerous goals. It will remove the geocube structure, resolve the litigation, and provide for a meaningful environmental benefit to this coastline, and also provide a measure of protection to the structure. One thing I did want to point out is, yes, you took a picture of the for sale sign. Nigel and Monica are here tonight. I think they're just out of money. At the end of the day, this is a very expensive project, and their hope is that that this will allow them to move on and find somebody who will complete this or accept
Well, it's irrelevant anyway.
It's irrelevant at the end of the day. But this isn't a power play. This is somebody who's really trying to do the best they can with what hands they're holding right now. So I think it'd probably be easier to have Brian speak, because
No, I actually have a couple of questions for you.
Whatever questions you have, sure.
So we know the geocubes have been there for 7 years. So the chances of them completely falling apart when you do go to lift them is very probable. What's your methodology with that sand when it does fall out? What are you going to do with it? Where will it go? 'Cause other than just drop down where it is?
It's going to drop down where it is
But I
right
mean,
now.
can't you put it on the top of a dune or use it in some other beneficial
Well,
way?
I don't think you would want to
other than just
retreat
having
the
it drop there?
shoreline on further. Our proposal would be to remove the geocubes and allow the material. It's going to spill out. It's not going to,
They're probably all
it will
gonna spill out.
basically recreate the shoreline exactly where they're removed. So what a good proposal would be, I think, and I would defer to Brian in terms of what he'd want to see, but would be a recontouring and perhaps, an augmentation of the material that's there to create a natural shoreline that we could plant with beach grass or maybe some core logs or something else that would actually provide some structural stability while this reestablishes itself. That's the best effort I think we can make based on the removal of these, of trying to stabilize that shoreline in its current location.
Now, the other question I have is, we know that there's going to be excavation on the beach. And page 8 of the protocol, as pointed out in the TAM, notes that there's really no detail on how much sand will be excavated from the beach. So I just feel that a more detailed assessment of how much more is going to be necessary.
I'm happy to provide that. I'm not sure where it's getting excavation on the beach. The geocubes, I think they were thinking would need to be dug out. In reality, I think they're going to be winched out from on top of them, basically. So I don't think they need, when they set the geocubes, they actually excavated the beach face, put them in to create that row of the bottom bags. But I think those will just pull out right from the top, basically. Once you cut them, they'll come right out. Those things have also been exposed to sun and seawater for 7 years. There was another picture that showed the Sirota property as well. Those are geocubes are, literally when I was there, they look like you could poke them with your finger and they would fall apart, basically. So I don't think removing these geocubes is going to be that difficult, but I'm happy to get a protocol from the person who
I would
installed
like
them
that
and
for
would
the
remove
record.
that. Sure.
Just to have, now, has there been any kind of a beach restoration plan?
A beach restoration plan? No, that's what we're talking about developing. This has all
so
been about
that's something I'd like to
geocubes
have
were
in the record,
installed, geocubes are going to be removed. And what I think
Like
would
that
make
in writing
sense
in the
would
record.
be like either the board continuing this hearing, if you're going to change the seeker type, let's make it an unlisted, if that's what the board would like, and we can submit this beach restoration plan that has all of these components, basically add to the scope of our project, and I'm okay with that because I think it makes sense.
I think it does too. Does the board have any questions?
Well, I do. I have a couple of things.
Yeah.
But this is a kind of a touchstone project anyway. A lot of conversation about geocubes. The applicant has been in front of us. There's been give and go a long time. Obviously, the discussion of the removal of the geocubes has been pointed out by the chair. It's essential to us understanding how this is moving forward. And I think the sensitivity of it really requires that we get some sort of additional assessment from, First Coastal, before we move forward. My other question, though, the thing I was going to bring up, and you can't speak for Davis. This house, I can see where now we're moving it to the west, which is an improvement from the original based on what the recommendations were. However, it seems to me that's going to have to be moved to the south and the east in order for the new foundation to go in. Take a look at this, because I can see that the new foundation is going to be over part of the existing foundation.
Oh, that's correct.
And so it's going to have to go east and then come back. That's not the problem. That's not the question I really have. So we're going to see this come over and go east. They're going to put a foundation in, right? And then they're going to move it back on the foundation. At that point, this house will be back 35 feet, whatever the number is now, going to be 47 feet from the bluff, right? Now, when we go to remove the geocubes, we have some room to work. We're talking about bringing in an excavator, reaching down. The discussion, and I'm sure Brian will have something to say, but the discussion of what happens to the sand and how it's handled and how we repair whatever kind of excavation has to be made there. We know there's geocubes buried. There may be more than one row of them buried. There's lots of things we can't exactly comment on, but we're going to have to make sure, rely on the protocol. But at that point, we're going to access this by bringing a machine out, sitting there with a little more room. There's no room now to work on the bluff to take out the geocube. Geocubes stay till the house is moved and in place, right?
Yes.
There's some repair done to the land where the house had previously sat, and then the geocubes are removed. That's pretty much the procedure here, right?
Yes.
Like that. One other question I have, and I'd like Brian will comment on a couple of these items here. This new FEMA regulation, are you going to be subject to that based on the timing of all of this? I mean, are you going to be required to go up that additional 18 inches?
I believe so.
I reached out to the chief building inspector to see how they're interpreting, because this is it's only been 27 days, so
Yeah.
it hasn't come up a ton yet. They have submitted plans already. So there's a question if it's grandfathered in. It's not really a question for us to decide. That's really the building inspector's determination.
Right.
But if he says they're grandfathered in, then they can go, don't need a variance. If they're not, they can they need to either get a variance or chop it down.
I do think that if I were the landowner and they're here tonight, I would probably comply with the most frustrating, if FEMA is projecting this based on climate change or whatever else is driving this, I would want to comply with the new regulation because I think it's safer. The difference of us complying and not complying is basically a little ridge line with a little tiny corner. And I think we could just agree to remove that. I can probably get architectural plans that show the removal of that, and in which case we'll be fully compliant.
Well,
with
that's
height.
something to do with grading in the end anyway. We're moving it closer to the road, an additional 18 inches, additional amount of grading. I think we'll get that clarified either through some.
If they're going to raise it to the FEMA,
They're going to raise it anyway, okay.
everyone not kind of.
There's also one point that I forgot to bring up before. There is an outdoor shower on the north side, and that seems to be new. Oh, you did take it out? Okay, because I've been away this for
Supposed to
5 days. I didn't
relocate it.
get
It's
there.
been there a
Okay.
very long time, but we just couldn't find where it would first arose, whether it was.
All right,
and we just said,
excellent,
we'll get
very
rid of it.
good. That's excellent, off my list.
Um,
Thank you.
May I? So just a couple of things. So given the house is moving east and then west and then, a question I asked in the last application, the limits of clearing, the proposed final limits of clearing are not that much different than existing, but do we know how much? I don't see on the new survey, I don't think I see limits of clearing. So do we know?
It does show proposed limits of clearing, and it's a little bit more, like 50 square feet. It's very small. Part of it is because there's a lot of that property that is cleared right now, even though it has vegetation on it. It has, some of the ornamental pines, et cetera. That area is already cleared, basically. And if you look at our proposed survey, you can even see the area eyeballing it. Moving this structure to the east, it almost fits in that area while they're constructing the new foundation. That's one good thing, and our limits of clearing shouldn't be affected. It's not like we're right up against it. We still have a lot of that beach vegetation that's well outside of the area that was proposed. That's not cleared right now.
And you're going to run the driveway, according to this, in from that southeast corner.
That's correct. We're getting rid of it from the west side.
Right. And may I just ask, because it makes it sprawl a little bit more, and I'm just thinking about the bit of topography and the beach vegetation that's there now that maybe, was there an opportunity to consolidate that a little more?
I think we could consolidate it. It wasn't affecting.
It's just sort of a nice
clearing
area.
Per se.
Yeah.
One thing I would note is that there is a driveway that you're driving into. So, that might be, I don't think a lot of thought was given to it other than, well, you'd want to drive in and have access to the driveway, but we could consolidate that a little bit more if it made sense.
And then back to FEMA for a second. I'm looking at the new, it's the new set. It has the drawings and it has the levels, the floor plans, right? So as I understand it, the basement, which is under the minimum FEMA height, can't have any living space, right? It's just storage and.
It's a very strange house.
Because the reason I'm asking is because now it says garage converted to bedroom. So this would be in the lower level that would not be FEMA
That's
compliant.
actually that's the first story.
Nope, I'm looking at page A103 proposed basement plan, so. Which in the prior set of plans, it just said garage, but I just wanted to double check.
Are you sure you're looking at the current plan? Because the current plan, that garage is actually on the same level, and the owners are here, they can probably elaborate it more.
Okay,
When we had it proposed
these
to
are the
be
ones-
relocated to the east, you couldn't use it as a garage anymore because it was going to be up against.
I'm looking at the
property
plans
line.
dated January 23rd, 2026. Anyway, we can come back to it, and maybe it's just a typo. Yeah, the one's just submitted.
Just submitted.
Yeah, so I was looking at it because it said converted garage bedroom
That has to
3.
be,
Yeah, it should remain as garage, basically. That's that is the reason this makes sense in some respects.
yeah, when we leave the record open,
Mhm.
that's another, it
Yeah,
was
we'll just
submitted
correct that,
January
but it-
26th, so I personally haven't had an opportunity to review that, so that's going to be,
Yeah.
board is entitled to
Absolutely.
time to review and get back how they feel about it.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I'd like to hear from planning, but I think that's it
I'm
for
ready.
now.
Are we, is the board,
Yeah,
any more
I'm fine.
questions?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from the planning board, planning department right now.
What do you say, board or department?
I'm
Planning.
promoting Brian tonight.
Good evening again, Brian Frank.
Peanut
Still.
Gallery.
So Andy did a good job summarizing the history and the fact that this hearing is at least in part of a stipulation of settlement. I just want to add to the fact that there was SECRA followed for the retention of the GeoCubes application, and that decision did come after the preparation of a positive declaration and an environmental impact statement. So there is a lot more information about the history of the house and the GeoCubes in that file. And I think Andy referenced the suggestion that the board review that information to have the full picture of the history. This application is to remove and relocate, to relocate the house landward and remove the GeoCubes. The relocation of the house landward is something that the planning department strongly encourages. It is consistent with the town code, the LWRP, the comprehensive plan, and the coastal assessment and resiliency plan that was also made part of the comp plan to relocate landward in an erosive situation. The planning department does believe that the western portion of the property is a little bit more resistant to erosion than the eastern portion of the property. The elevations are about 4 feet higher. I'll go back to the aerial in a moment, but the scour effect from the GeoCube revetment on the adjoining property to the east is unmistakable. I think it's pretty obvious from the aerial photos. You have a slew of aerial photos in the impact statement files that kind of basically all the photos that we have going back to prior to the construction of the GeoCube revetment in 2018. And there was a time when this section of shoreline was not one of our hotspots for coastal erosion. The lot is also a little bit deeper to the west, so the setbacks, the coastal setbacks increase from 32 to about 40. The walkway to the beach is something that wasn't on the original certificate of occupancy. Structures like that are coastal access structures. They don't require variances. The most recent revision that you have does account for the elevation changes that it takes to get down to the beach. Part of leaving the record open, I do think that once you get to wherever the dune crest or the edge of whatever is established here, it's probably a good idea to turn that staircase parallel to the face of the dune instead of perpendicular, as Member Meering noted in her photos and Andy referenced in her presentation. The seaward edge of that staircase right now is seaward of mean high water. So the lowest section is interacting with the tide. It looked like at least some of the boards had been replaced. Turning it parallel to the dune, to the face of the dune, leaves a little bit more beach. I'd encourage looking at a staircase where the seawardmost section retracts up. This way, when there is a storm, that's less likely to become waterborne debris that damages either this property or the adjoining properties as it becomes, flotsam. But that's kind of more of a minor point. The most important elements of this application are obviously is getting the house in the safest location on the property and getting a better understanding of exactly how the GeoCubes are going to be removed and how the shoreline is going to be naturalized. Andy addressed the shower. I'm I think I'm still not clear whether the shower is removed from the application or if it's relocated somewhere else on the new house. Just as a point of information, anywhere on the house, it would require a variance as a new structure. There's no place
brought
that
it up.
could meet the 75-foot dune crest setback that we have in this area. We're coming up on the time of the year that's going to be ideal to do this work, especially the shoreline work. The best time to do any type of coastal restoration is in early enough in spring where you're late enough to escape, hopefully, the nor'easter season, but in the beginning of the growing season, so that as you stabilize any dune that you reestablish on this property, any beach grass has the longest duration of growing season that it has a chance to establish. And that's variable, but late March, early April is probably the best window for that beach grass growth. I do think you need a lot more detail about how those geocubes are going to be removed. I don't think it's as simple as the conveyance from Billy Mack over the phone. You definitely have this revetment spans the width of the property. That's almost 200 linear feet, about 185 linear feet. They are stacked at least 3 high, and at least in one section, we know that there's in the western portion in the area of the stairs was evident in member Mearing's photos. It was also evident in earlier photos. There's a row that's in front of the seawardmost row. It's also kind of evident, or appears to be evident, from member Mearing's photos of the western return, that there may be 2 rows of sandbags here. I'm not looking to put anybody on the spot here. The other sandbags that I've seen, the other revetment structures that I've seen exposed over time, all of them have been 2 rows. And I think the prudent thing to do is to base the removal protocol on the assumption that there may be twice the quantity of bags and twice the volume of sand that is shown on the plan. Andy referenced the plan that was approved by the DEC in the town back in 2018. It did show 1 vertical stack of 3 tiers of cubes that the structure is supposed to consist of. I expect that it's more than that. The lowest level is definitely below the beach level and requires excavation of the beach. You can't start restoring the beach until you get that lower level out. So the idea that you're going to lift the bag, cut it, let the sand spill out doesn't seem to make sense, because the top row of bag is on top of at least 2 more layers of bag at a lower level, and you've got to get to those you've got to get the bottom of this structure out before you can start filling in what you excavate from the beach. That sand should be used to naturalize the dune and the beach as much as possible. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze here between the dune crest and mean high water. Typically, dune restorations, generally, you try to put the sand above the mean high water line so it doesn't start sloughing off immediately. And that may result in a pretty steep, unnaturally steep slope of the beach here. I'd like to see all that material put along the dune crest or the beach as much as they can, including maybe even putting some on the escarpment that's left when those geocubes come out. The dimension of those bags is 3 by 3 by 3. So where the dune crest is now is, it's kind of right on top of the bag. So the dune crest is going to come back by 3 feet at least, just by removing those bags out. And as much as you can infill that cavity that's left by the removal, or cavity trench, whatever the right term is, as much as you can naturalize that area that's excavated, that should be encouraged. If the volume is greater because there's more sand than anticipated, then I support putting at least some of that sand right on top of the escarpment, where it's not going to be interacting with the shoreline, and may provide a little bit more coastal protection to the new house. But you definitely need a plan that indicates what type of machinery is going to be used, where that access to the shoreline is going to come from. The idea that you're going to be able to do all of this from behind the dune, I think is unlikely. You've seen the condition of the bags in Member Mearing's photos. Andy referenced the fact that they've been exposed to the elements for at least 7 years. I think their integrity is probably pretty limited, and they may fall apart when you go to lift them out. I think they're going to, well, anyway, I think their integrity has probably diminished over time. The secret classification was a little bit of a surprise on this. It's ironic. We did secret for the revetment to remain, and it's been postulated that we should be doing it and considering it an unlisted action for the removal, which I hadn't considered. That doesn't really change the substance of the application, but it does change the procedure. And if it allows coordination with the DEC, that might be a benefit to everybody. I did see a copy of the incomplete letter that the DEC provided that I think was submitted by the adjoining neighbor to the west, and I was a little bit surprised that it doesn't say anything about the geocubes. It has some questions about the design of the house and some calculations for coverage, but didn't seem to raise that, and I found that a little bit surprising, because it is close to the shoreline here. It seems like it's something that is also within tidal wetland jurisdiction, even though ironically it's landward of the coastal erosion hazard line. That's a whole nother thing that don't get me started on.
That's my line.
The sanitary system is pretty straightforward. I think it was pretty straightforward when the leaching field was oriented to go from the on-site wastewater treatment system to the west. They basically flipped that. It's in the landwardmost location it could be, and what we expect to be clean sand might be the most straightforward aspect of the application. I don't have an objection to the House meeting the new FEMA regulations, but we do have the same questions about what is vested. And this application was deemed complete before the end of the year. We haven't really gotten the guidance from the state about what their mandate is in terms of how we're applying this. So again, I'm not going to block anybody from or discourage anybody from making their houses resilient and as safe as possible. But we still have questions about what is actually required beyond the 2 foot of freeboard above the base flood elevation that the state building code had required until the end of last year. They did add 18 inches of more of additional freeboard to account for sea level rise, and that's kind of the crux of the application. I would echo Member Mearing's comments about the driveway. I'd like to see the driveway is about the same footprint of the house right now, and kind of returning it to roughly the square footage that's there now would leave more of that dune land vegetation that is pristine in the eastern portion of the property. And I think that's it. I think that's all of the comments that I have. I do think because of the nature of this application, no house has been moved on Cranberry Hole Road yet. We do have an approval for one that was issued a number of years ago that hasn't been acted upon yet. So this is a bit of an important application, as well as the opportunity to get rid of those geocubes from the shoreline, which in short, erosion control structures don't solve the problem, they move the problem. And you can see that from the aerial photos. You can see what's happening in this stretch of shoreline where there are a number of these. And, that's, the removal of these geocubes should be encouraged and facilitated to the fullest extent possible.
So can I just drill down on that for a second? So I'm reading the bottom of page 2 of your TAM. The planning department supports land relocation of the residents, the removal of the entire geocube revetment, and restoration of the shoreline as soon as possible. So this is the question, it just sort of came up. We know that a board can grant an approval if this is approved, but, someone has 3 years and then can renew approval. So what reality-wise can the zoning board specify, or what would you specify as the timing of the removal of the geocubes?
Well, in
Like, do they have to?
agreement with you.
Yeah.
In the recommended project conditions, you actually address that, but you don't really give it a definitive timeframe. You say a definitive timeframe should be established for the removal of.
Right.
So maybe wherever this goes, we be more specific about the point Member Mehring is making, because it's a good one, because you're saying late March or early April is when this should get done. So we should actually be a little bit more detailed about exactly when this should take place, because you don't really specify in the condition.
Sorry, it also requires a building permit, requires a DEC permit before they can do things. Early April would be ideal, but I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know what the zoning board's compulsory powers are. You're a quasi-judicial board.
Right.
Your role is to approve or deny things. You're not an enforcement institution.
But my question is, in your condition that you've put in here, could we be more specific, you be more specific about the time frame?
I think that's up to the applicant to address. You know, that the applicant has the obligation
I think
to
that's a
meet
good point,
the
Jim.
requirements of the other permitting agencies, answer the questions that the DEC have,
Okay.
get in the queue for the issuance of a building permit. And then when all of that is done, I don't know what compulsory mechanisms there are to act on the permit, and especially, the sale of the property is not really relevant. These permits run with the land, so it's not like, well, this is a great guy, it's a lousy application, but he's a wonderful person, let's give him the permit, or the opposite. It's a great application, but the guy is such a jerk, we're gonna, the permits run with the land. So whether it's the Curtises or whoever succeeds them and the property is kind of irrelevant. The idea is to get the ducks in a row so that this could actually be implemented. And whether that is something that the court ends up intervening because there is an action, that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse to address.
Thank you, Brian.
And then also, just a small thing, in the TAM, it says some portions of the application, some part of the project may require an approval from the East Hampton trustees. So what is that? Like, what part would need that, and where do we bring that into the process here?
I always defer to the trustees on their jurisdiction.
Okay.
So I don't remember the trustees being an active participant in the GeoCube application. I'm actually surprised I put that in there. I'll be honest with you.
That's right, but because they didn't get noticed for this application?
They may have, well, no, the Bay is, state waters. I don't know that they've claimed jurisdiction on this action.
I thought it was just DEC.
I don't.
Myself.
I don't.
All right, well,
All right,
it's in here,
let's,
so that's all.
any more questions? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is about this idea of timing. They get an approval. I don't know where we'd have any jurisdiction to be telling them, limiting a time period and when this has to be done within it. I mean, where does that come from? I don't know if we have that we're in a legal position to do that. In other words, if approval gets granted on this and they decide to move forward with the project, there's lots of moving parts here. There's no guarantee it can be done in any more than just a normal procedure on any of these things. We give approvals and we see the work doesn't progress for 2 years. They have the approval. They have 3 years to get started. So we have that. And I don't know exactly enough. Legal can talk about it and all that. I'm more interested now to talk a little bit about what happens about the removal of the geocubes, which is one of your major concerns. We have 350 bags there, maybe, if it's 185 feet and they're 3 foot high, 182 rows, 350, something like that. that material, even if it can be preserved carefully and used, is probably not enough to do the restoration of that bluff. We need to know exactly what has to be cut back. In other words, we need more information. We'll need a plan. We've said that. And then the planting on that as well. So now we need a fill estimate by whomever's going to do the work on what it's going to take to utilize that sand as best they can. The removal is critical. What do we utilize the sand as best we can, whether it gets dumped above and then put down below again? There's got to be a protocol, right? And I think there's going to be more material needed. Now, am I wrong with that? I mean, we're only talking about 400 yards of fill in these bags.
Well, that would be, more fill to restore the beach would be something to consider as part of a separate application. I would certainly encourage that. But this application is about removing the geocubes, getting the sand that's within them on the beach or the dune in the best way possible, and moving the house landward. Anything beyond that is kind of a little bit extra. I wouldn't close the door to that. If the project sponsors say we want to add to the volume of beach compatible sand to make something viable, again, the distance between the geocubes and mean high water is pretty limited right now. You need, ideally you've got a slope that's really not more than 45 degrees. Generally, you want it more shallow than that. I don't know that you can I don't even know where a 45-degree angle from mean high water, it probably intersects the escarpment now. So you're going to kind of do the best you can with the volume that you have. Plus, you're going to fill in the part that's obviously subsurface right now. That lowest row of sandbags that's lower than the elevation of the beach right now.
So one of the things we're asking the applicant here and the representative is to come back with us with more detail on what's going to happen on this removal of the beach. And also, what are they going to do for a planting plan going forward? Is that correct?
I think the planting plan is, keep it simple. Just keep it a beach grass, 12 inches on center. Okay. That's what they covered the geocube with initially. That's what we would encourage of anybody on Cranberry Hole Road who wanted to augment their dune, that this is not the spot to get artistic or creative, keep it simple.
If a plan comes back to us and says we were looking for 30 or 35-degree angle, you said 45 would be the maximum, and we would then see what was needed to create a 45-degree angle. I'm just looking in terms of procedure here. It's possible we get something back. Here's a planning plan. It's going to require more fill. You're saying that's going to require another application? Can it be tied into this one with approval of the planting plan? The planting plan we're going to require, I'm going to speculate here, additional material to create the angle we're looking for and to do what's necessary in this very delicate area.
I think the low bar, the baseline, is taking the sand that's there and putting it on the beach, naturalizing it as much as you can. If the applicant chooses to go above and beyond and add, I'm happy to look at that, but that's really not what's on the table right now. The two chief elements here are moving the house back and getting rid of those geocubes. Anything else is kind of a bonus. You got to do something with that sand anyway. It makes the most sense to put it on the beach as best you can. And I don't know what that looks like yet because we really don't know the volume. And that's really up to the applicant to design something that is doable, not something that just looks good on paper, but that is something that is doable.
I'm agreeing with you, and I'm saying if that design comes back to us and requires more sand, are we asking them to come back with a separate application? Now we see what's going on, rather than tie it into this application. We're not in a position to say that whatever plan comes back could then be moved forward with your approval if we had that?
I think you could, but my only comment would be to don't do anything that slows down the implementation of this. If they want to add sand, if the board is amenable to doing that as a modification, whether we do that separately as an expedited natural resources application, I think there are a couple of different ways that we can go with that. But I think right now there's enough complexity to kind of fill the board's plate.
Okay, so if the project moves forward This house is going to be lifted and moved, a new foundation goes in, is going to be popped in. We've already discussed it with Andy, that at that point, they're going to remove the geocubes. The geocubes are not coming out before the house moves. That's basically what we were just told, right?
Or should they?
Well, I'm asking, well, I'll tell you the reason why it's going to be difficult, because there's no space right now.
right.
You get machinery on the water side of the building. That building has to be moved back just for you to get access to the beach. I think when you're out there, that seems obvious to me. That's the first question. If it's not moved, it's hard to work on the beach. So I think in terms of procedure, what I see moving forward practically, the house moves, the house gets placed, we take work on the geocubes. Now, that's not meaning this April. That means whenever that work gets done by this or another potential applicant or another owner of the
Well,
property.
I don't know if I mentioned it. I think the best place to access the shoreline from is from the existing driveway. It's in the middle of the property. It's an area that's going to get disturbed and need to get restored anyway. It stays away from the low elevations to the east, which is where the original access was from. You can see on the 2018 aerials where the machinery accessed the shoreline in the eastern portion of the property. And anyway, I think these are the moving parts that the applicant has to nail down and get in front of the
Yes.
zoning board.
I've written them all down, so we're good.
It was just mentioned that all be done from above. So when you're from above, if you're going to do the whole 180 feet, that house has to move. Now, if we're going to have a different approach, if we're going to get a piece of equipment on the beach or something else, that's not in front of us right now. That's not been proposed. That's all I'm saying.
You know, I recognize that First Coastal has installed a number of these. I don't know how many of them they've removed, but I know they've installed a number of them. And with respect to them, I would be surprised. I don't see any way that you can do this from just the landward side of the dune. I don't see how you're not going to have a small excavator at least on the beach.
So one of the things we've asked is that we're going to get more information, and that information will be something we have to consider about not just the removal, the material, how it's to be used, and how it's to be accessed.
Yeah. Machinery, access.
Well, two important,
staging.
just to clear this up, because we need to move on. We need an assessment on how much sand is going to be excavated on the beach, and we need a methodology on the geocube removal. Does anyone else want to add to that?
And I haven't sat for one of these before, so obviously we have a construction protocol from TF Engineering, but do we need an additional actual protocol from a coastal engineer as well to really go through it, show us, I mean, are we setting what the angle will be beforehand, or like it sort of feels like
My opinion is no, you don't need one.
you don't need that. So, and then can I ask about the structure? Like, I guess I don't know if it's a structure now from the house all the way to the beach access, but I heard what you said about moving it horizontally, so you're stepping down from the house, but does it have to be a built structure? Can it just be a 4-foot wide path?
I think when you get to the edge of the dune, you're going to have a drop off. You've got about a
you think it's
6,
still
8
gonna
foot
be-
drop off now. So
So you're gonna, okay. And then one last question. Once all this work is done, is there a scenic easement needed or preferred for some area seaward of the house?
I don't know that that's practical on
I was
this
just gonna say
application.
There'd be potential work being done and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's it for me right now.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to appear on behalf of the application?
Good evening, board members. Karen Hoag from Timmy Latham. Here on behalf of Louis Saul, who is the property owner to the west at 383 Cranberry Hole. Based on today's submission of revised plans and the discussion that the board has and some of the comments that Brian made as well for additional information, we would ask that the board actually keep the public hearing open so that we can review the materials timely and provide further comment if needed.
We'll be requesting our own things, so the record will definitely be left open.
And the
Okay.
hearing.
Thank you.
In the hearing, we're not closing anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on behalf of the application? Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Mr. Hammer?
Came all the way.
I'm going to have to swear you in, sir. Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Could you identify your name for the record?
Nigel Curtis. And my wife, Monica Mitro, is here too. I just wanted to say a couple of things. One about timing. We are very aware of the fact that, as everybody's discussed, that the bags, the geocubes are deteriorating. We know that this is not a plan for 5 years, wait 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They're going to break up. So we understand that this is a matter of urgency to get the house back as soon as we can. So that's the first thing I'd like to state. Second thing I'd like to say is that we believe, however the bags are taken out, they need to be kept in place until the house is moved, just because they're protecting the house at the moment. There's not a possibility of taking them down first. It has to be the other way around. So they're the only things that's holding the house in place at the moment. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
for your
Thank you
time.
very much. So,
So, and in terms of keeping the record open, I personally would think it would make more sense to have a continuation. We can submit the additional.
no, I think what we're going to do is give you time, tell us how long it's going to take for you to submit what we're going to request. And
Okay.
then we'll make the determination as to whether or not
To-
we'll have it passed on to planning and let them look at it, and we'll make the determination ourselves as to how we move forward.
And then how will the secret factor into this?
Yeah,
timeline
and
as well?
that we want to talk about with council, yes.
Well, I do think a continuation would cover you under the secret because you would renotice it as now an unlisted, and that would at least be belts and
So let me ask you,
suspenders.
I'm like a shower addict, so there is no shower on this property?
There's plenty of showers
No outdoor
inside.
shower,
The
no outdoor
has been
shower.
removed from the
Sorry, there's no
application.
outdoor shower anywhere on the property,
There currently is one.
There currently is, and it is being removed, yes.
and it's being removed?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you wouldn't have to get a variance? Okay, fine.
And I did want to point out that Member Mearing showed that if you look at the plans, one of them is incorrectly. I think it's a foundation plan, but if you look at the floor plan, it does show that garage area with a car in it, basically on that
On
same
the-
set of
on
plans.
the first floor,
You were
the
just looking
basement.
at yeah, exactly.
I know, I was looking at the basement plan where it says it's a bedroom. That's all my question was.
Okay,
So
all right, but no,
you'll
it is
double check
not.
that.
It's the
Just I don't
garage.
think- yeah.
Okay, so I just want to summarize, and board, correct me if I'm wrong. We want to leave the record, everything open, for an assessment on how much sand will be excavated from the beach. And we also want methodology on the geocube removal. What else? Is there anything I've left out?
I would think you would want the plan that shows the reduction in the driveway, the overall.
The driveway
of the
reduction, yes, I
driveway,
had that written.
which I think we can
Decision
do as well.
about if you're going to go for a height variance or.
Well,
go
that we
for
have
a-
to wait.
Oh,
We don't know the
don't
answer for
know the answer
FEMA, but
yet.
I will try to
Exactly.
explore that with our architect to
Because
see
if,
how.
that would be
it is
one of the
to-
things we work out in the next couple of weeks to see if you need a variance for that, or if you're just going to
Sort it out.
cut it down.
Yes,
It's either new plans.
Right.
it's either going to be, we're going to cut it or we're not going to cut it. And,
Right, exactly.
But I also would like the opportunity to relocate the stairway parallel, as Brian suggested, to access.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I don't think you do need a structure there, because otherwise you're going to fall 7, 8 feet to your death. Maybe
So
not your
are
death.
we going
All
to
right,
need a
what
new
else?
survey? We're going to ask for a new survey.
Say that again, Terry?
Said there's so many more geocubes that may not even be.
Right.
Well, I would, the
So how
problem with the
much-
geocubes is I'm not an expert on geocubes. I don't think anybody here is. And
No.
Billy Mack, who installed these, I mean, he has photos of what was there. I would like to get him to give me the protocol, the plan,
Yes.
and tell me exactly how they're done. I will say that having an excavator, that prior application that you had for that house on Old Montauk Highway, I might not have been in that photo, but that excavator arm digging that foundation was terrifying to me. It was a guy sitting on the perch, and it was digging the articulated arm on that thing was digging 40, 50 feet down. So I think you can do a lot from the top of the bluff but I will get it from the horse's mouth.
We need some sort of, accurate protocol.
Exactly how this is done and what the end result should be. And if it
detail.
involves additional fill being brought in, that once once again, a continuation would be good because then you can renotice it as type 2 and we can show that we're going to, recontour it or whatever in
Right.
that same.
How much time do you think you'll need?
Well, let's see. I would ask for a minimum of 30 days, I think would be sufficient. And at which time the board can renotice it for a
If you
continuation.
need more, you could let us know.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And that would be fine. But, we're not recreating the wheel. And hopefully the people that I'm contacting have the answers that I need. In terms of timing, I did want to point out, we need the DEC, we need a health department permit. And if you submitted a building permit today, talk to me when you think you'd get it. So, we have other issues at play here too. So, I think probably best case scenario is next March or April is maybe feasible. But yeah, we have a lot of things in order and I don't think you want to rush into this at the end of the day. We want to make sure we have a good, consistent plan that's comprehensive in all its scope. And it's going to result in what everybody wants, which is this house is protected, relocated, the beach is stabilized, and these things have been removed in a manner that's going to be consistent with the neighbors' interests and trying to reestablish it as best we can a natural shoreline.
We're going in a positive direction. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody else?
I'd like to clarify this.
Member Berger has a question.
No, well, not from Andy necessarily. We have Sterling, who's representing 383. Karen was representing
Same person.
the same person.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so we
Who's Sterling?
And what about,
to
do
conclude?
It's the engineer.
you want to
yes.
ask council about timing for secret? Does that impact?
Well,
how
we
long
we
keep this
talked about it
open?
earlier. Do we,
For what? I'm
what's
sorry.
the timing for secret? Do we wait for,
Does that impact the
What time do-
timing of how long we're leaving this open?
do we have
would have to-
30 days to?
If it was unlisted, then they would need to just do a,
Coordination letter, right?
yeah, and
And notice it.
do the short form,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
which
We might do as part of our submission anyway.
yeah.
I don't think it actually affects the substance of the application.
No,
But procedurally, it will create additional steps
Yeah.
with the coordinated review.
I'm of the mind that it might be good for everybody to go that route, just to avoid a pitfall potentially
Absolutely.
for unnecessarily, so.
If you get the short form in, Andy, I'll talk to Charlie. If Charlie's all right, I'll start the lead agency coordination
Okay.
now.
Yeah,
so
that would be
it overlaps
helpful.
The 30 days.
And then what
And
does
are-
Brian need in terms of time?
No. He'll,
No, it doesn't affect
when
my
he
time.
submits, we already handled this. When he submits his documentation, it's going to get handed on to planning. And then
planning,
we're going to see whether or not we're going to go forward with the continuation.
Okay.
Member Mering, are you ready to?
I think I am, yes. And are we asking,
Based on,
are we getting a new?
thank you, Mr. Hammer.
Sorry, are we getting a new survey as part of what we're leaving this open for?
No.
Well,
No, well, he's making changes.
I mean,
No,
It might show a revised profile.
That's
of-
all I want.
Right.
Okay, I'm just, okay.
Just, yeah.
I think I'm ready. Are we ready?
Go for it.
Okay. In the matter of Nigel Curtis, 393 Cranberry Hole Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-128-1-28.2. I'm going to make a motion to leave the record and the hearing open. And what's my 30-day date?
30 days.
So,
We need a date?
the 24th,
We're doing the 24th,
February 24th. That's what it was this.
February 24th.
Okay, leaving open for 30 days, record and hearing till February 24th for receipt of at least a detailed protocol around all the issues related to excavation, geocube removal, dunes and beach restoration,
Primary reduction.
Yeah, I'm getting to that, yeah. A submission from the applicant with some modifications to the application as discussed, including a driveway, what are we calling driveway reduction? Reduction. And any other additional submissions that
A
they,
relocation of the stairwell.
right, yeah.
Right, that too.
And that's why I was asking if you needed, and relocation of the stairwell. That's That's the motion, correct?
That's the motion.
Potentially.
And potential,
Change that.
Right, okay.
Right.
okay, and if necessary, additional revised building plans.
Second?
Concur.
Thank you.
Second. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
all.
Karen. Have a good night. We'll move on to our work session. The other decisions, it would be Hakase LLC, 24 Sammy's Beach Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-56-2-35.3, modification of a 2023 decision.
I didn't see anything on this.
Oh, well, I think I have something on it. Let me show it to you.
This agenda.
I lost it. So,
You mind if I do it from here, Madam Chair?
oh, absolutely.
If you could blow that up a
As
little
long
bit,
as you could be
please.
comfortable. Your comfort is our,
Make it bigger?
Yes, please.
A lot bigger.
I may have to get closer.
Is that better? Because it's like huge on my screen right now.
That green is terrible, but anyway.
It's as good as it's
ahead.
going to get. If I have to step closer, I will.
That's better. Scroll
So
around.
this is Hokusai, which, my apologies to them if I've mispronounced their name, but this was an application that
Color?
was somewhat involved at the time. It was simplified to be an approval to remove 705 square feet of existing driveway and revegetate. It allowed them to construct 406 square feet of new driveway to access the garage. I don't know if you remember this application. There were retaining walls that were built very close to the wetland that needed to get removed. The garage was enlarged to the west over here. This is the scale back version. This is what the zoning board approved. As built, there were changes to the walkway and the driveway as shown on, I guess it didn't open. So this is the as-built change that they're looking to keep. They had these changes shown on a revegetation plan, but the revegetation plan was really about the vegetation and it's really not the right vehicle to propose changes in the structure to. The planning department doesn't have any objections to the as-built changes, but it does require a modification of the zoning board approval.
Is the changes further from wetlands? Or
Yes.
They're now further from wetlands than they were what we approved?
So I'm sorry, what is the
Where are the
actual change?
Yeah.
Forgive me, I wasn't around for this application, so.
Yeah, I don't have a memory.
So the spur of the driveway always went towards the wetland. It was cut back from what was originally proposed. And as built, they flipped it.
Okay, so just,
There are some minor walkways that were included. But they're minor changes. They did differ from the approved survey and, require the modification.
Yeah, I think it's an improvement. I have no problem with it.
I do too. I agree.
I'm okay with it. Yep.
No, it's yours.
In the matter of Hakasai LLC, 24 Sammy's Beach Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-56-2-35.3, I make a motion that, well, no, I don't think we need to make a motion because it's a modification. So we'll just
Yeah.
wait till we get the
Then I'll
resolution.
just draft the modification.
We'll just move on it's a resolution to be prepared. Okay, good. The next is Slonim and Sarin, 13 Gallatin Lane, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-38-1-12. Modification of a 2024 determination.
So this was an area variance approval on Gallatin Lane in Springs. The original approval granted a variance for a second-story addition that required 1.4 feet of pyramid variance from the northeast property line. The construction is completed. The as-built conditions actually require another 1.4 feet of relief, so a total of 2.8 feet total beyond the pyramid line. You can see the, well, goodness, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Okay, I don't know why the house does that. It's crazy. You can see the height difference here, and that was not me. I don't know if that's a Foxit thing or if it's,
On everything.
I'm going to blame Tyler.
Yeah.
He's not,
I apologize. And it also, the as-built conditions require a real de minimis, a fraction of a foot, 0.3 feet, pyramid relief on the southwest side, which was not originally part of the application. So the planning department is bringing this to the board. You might want to have a hearing for this to give a neighbor an opportunity to be aware of the changes and comment accordingly, since pyramid, like other dimensional reliefs, are a big part of them are there to protect neighboring properties.
Is this a builder's error or is this just a wrong elevation? The same thing, but.
It came from the use of using average grade on the property line rather than natural grade as required by the code.
I remember this, and I remember it being a very, very tight lot, and the neighbor is close, so I would agree to wanting to have a hearing.
oh, I definitely think we should have a public hearing.
Okay,
Vice Chair?
so do we
Oh,
need
yeah, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. I'm sorry, I didn't say anything.
Okay, so
we need a motion?
we're actually going to deny the application for a modification. We're going to deny the modification request, and we're going to schedule it for public hearing.
Okay, do we need a motion on that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Do we need a motion on that, do you think?
I don't know. Are you
We don't do these very
taking an
often.
action? Are you denying the modification, or are you?
Yeah, we are
scheduling it
denying the
for-
application. Well, I mean, in the
not denying the
past, I always
modification.
did letters saying we denied the application, but if you want to proceed, you need to go to public hearing. It was a letter.
Right, that's what,
That's how I always did it in the past. I don't know if it's changed the process, but that's how we used to do it. Probably not, right? So we can do it that way, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just send them a letter. I mean,
Yeah,
well,
that's
they're
how
gonna
we
have to, the house is
generally do it.
built.
I mean, it's up to them how they want to go forward.
They rip the house down and.
But they don't need to submit, if you tell them that it's denied, they might either think that they have to remove it or they have to make a whole new variance application.
No, but in the letter that I used to send, and it was a template, it used to say, we not entertaining your request for modification, and where our recommendation is that you go for a public hearing.
Okay.
so, and this is built already?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
already
it's
built, okay.
yeah. It's more about neighbors and things like that. Okay, so I was told that the draft minutes on here, they're dated as January 13th, but I think it's supposed to be 13, but it's 16. 13th was a Tuesday. So for the minutes approval, draft minutes of Tuesday, January 13th, Member Berger?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes from Tuesday, January 13th for this East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Concur. Resolutions, Nina Rachel Letterman and Rowena Lungumbai Argules Trust, 39 Old Fireplace Road, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-24-7-45. Council, I'm having a blank on this. I know that they didn't submit, we didn't include in our decision.
They referenced the updated septic plans to match the the survey showed, but they never actually formally submitted the plan. So we're going to add a condition to their approval that there is no approved septic plan currently, and that they have to, a condition of approval is to submit the plan that matches the survey, which they have prepared, they're ready to do it. They just,
All right, thank
just to
you.
get that into this file.
So in the matter of Nina Rachel Letterman and Rowena Lungumbai Argulas Trust, 39 Old Fireplace Road in Springs, I make a motion that we approve the resolution as amended.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Next is Matthew Whelan, 32 Tyler Road, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-68-12-5. Which one?
You, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't remember who it was.
Wasn't me.
This was the thing, something about an additional corner of the decking or something. I don't remember the details on it, but I think we all approved
Yeah,
things,
we approved it.
modification.
Yes, we did all.
We all approved.
I think it was just for some additional
Yeah.
decking to be contained here. Okay, and there was a unanimous approval, so. Matthew Wheeling, 32 Tyler Road, Montauk, tax map 300-068-12-5, make a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Second,
Second.
I
I'm sorry.
concur.
Concur.
Vice Chair, do we have an
Nope.
adjournment?
What about
Yeah,
Kevin
one more.
McDermott?
Oh, I don't have that on my sheet.
Oh, are we still doing that? Yeah.
I mean,
I think Sam added it.
can I read that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not on my thing.
I don't remember
Okay.
seeing that.
I
either.
remember this. I read I saw Charlie's.
Okay, the next resolution is Kevin McDermott, 70 Shore Road and 3 Merrills Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-84-3-17 and 18.
Okay, this was Amagansett in Lazy Point. This was an application that was shifting a lot line and creating one lot that was, I believe, substandard. It came to the attention that there was a Scrivener's error related to the size of one of the two lots, and that has been corrected. Right, Charlie? That's the only thing in this resolution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'd like to make a motion in the matter of Kevin McDermott, 70 Shore Road and 3 Merrills Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-84-3-17 and 18. I move to approve the resolution as amended.
Second.
I concur. Vice Chair, would you like to adjourn the meeting?
I would. Then I would like to make a motion to close East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing for January 27th, 2026 at 8:49 PM.
Second,
Concur.
Concur.